Many of us first met Mary McDonough when she was cast as Erin Walton in the 1972 movie The Homecoming. That was followed by 9 seasons of The Waltons and 6 reunion movies. Mary continues to act, direct, write, and she's also become a life and acting coach and public speaker. In the midst of all this busyness, she is also a wife and mother. I first thought of connecting with Mary when I read her memoir, Lessons from the Mountain, What I Learned from Erin Walton, and recalled how much I had identified with Erin back in the day. Then I found her Facebook page, and to my delight, I left a public comment when she asked for advice on how to tend her Christmas cactus. Then I reached out to her via her webpage, where we were able to connect one-on-one to arrange today's interview. Welcome, Mary, and thank you so much for making time for us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Laura.
So let's get right to it.
Okay.
Your memoir, Lessons from the Mountain, What I Learned from Erin Walton, is such a positive book with extraordinary insight. It's so honest, frank, and encouraging. You don't have an unkind word to say about anyone, but I am curious, what did you learn from Erin?
Probably not to have unkind words for anybody. I don't know that I have not. I have a couple of unkind comments, I think. Yeah, but I think for me, the whole thing in writing the book was really about it was my lessons from the mountain and my mountain and from Erin and the show. It wasn't about Judy's lessons or anybody else's lessons. So I guess for me, not throwing anybody else under the bus was more about really learning my lessons and being accountable for them. And I think one of the things that Erin taught me so much was, about being in a family, about being a middle child, which I was in real life as well. And as Erin found her voice, I think I started to find mine as well. So I think I learned a lot from her in that way.
Interesting. It was a fantastic book. I loved all the pictures
thank you.
of your life and everything. So your 2 novels, 1 Year and The House on Honeysuckle Lane, they're about life in small town Oliversville, Virginia. And I can really relate to these characters. That Mary Bernadette, who's like, oh, she's brilliant, Mary, just brilliant.
Thank you.
My greatest takeaway from these novels is that people should support each other and not knock each other down. Is that what you intended?
Yes. When Kensington asked me to do novels after the memoir, I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I have written screenplays, so maybe I can adapt some of my ideas and stories. But I also said, I don't consider myself a real romance novelist, but I said the stories have to be about women. And I think women are often pitted against each other in so many ways. And one of my other lessons that I've learned from the show and life is that if women unite together and help each other, it's much better. And so I asked them if I could write these positive novels about women and generations of women as well, which is, Christmas on Honeysuckle Lane has that, but 1 Year is really about these 3 generations of women.
And I think they were very successful, really.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, they all kind of have to learn how to be a family because they all love the men in this family, and yet they're all so different. And I always wanted a mother-in-law when I was younger. I always thought, oh, a mother-in-law would be such a cool thing to have, right? And, 2 people who love her son, right? And so that was one of my inspirations in having women and strong women and how you get along in a family when you all love the same people.
Exactly. So a Hallmark movie was made based on one of your books, and you had a cameo role. What was that like to portray a character that you created?
It was wild. It was really fun. And I didn't think about it so much when I was playing Caro. I was so happy and thrilled just to have my book made into a Hallmark movie because it's just a dream come true. And then when they said, it would be so fun to have you in it, and even Cammy Cotler had a cameo in it as well. It was really fun, but I never thought that, I created this character and now I'm playing her. I never thought of it that way when I was doing it. I just thought about the story and the love and the family and the daughter when I was playing her.
So did you identify with one character more than the other, or cheer for one more than the other?
You know, it's interesting because no, I cheer for all of them the same way, I think, because in the book, you know, Christmas on Honeysuckle Lane, which came from House on Honeysuckle Lane, the characters are way more defined, and the family dynamic is a lot thicker, I should say, than you have time for in a Hallmark movie. But that was one of the things, the compliments I took away from it was people said, "Gosh, it was so deep. It's like Hallmark movies there. It was really deep for Hallmark movie." And I thought, wow, I think that's a good thing. So, but in 1 year, I have to say, I feel like I'm all of those women, if that makes sense. Like I was Alexis when I was younger, and then I'm probably more close to Megan right now, and I'm becoming Mary Bernadette probably.
Oh my gosh.
But no, I probably will not. But I've known women like Mary Bernadette, so you know, I think that it's a cautionary tale.
If you become Mary Bernadette, we have to talk again.
No, I know, but I kind of feel like they are all pieces of them are all in me at different ages.
Mhm. No, that's fair. So can you give us a wee hint what your next book is like? Are we still set in Oliver's Well, or is it a faraway place and all new characters?
We are not in Oliver's Well. We may go back to Oliver's Well at some point, but as of right now, my fourth novel I've been working on for quite a while, and I've had some distractions in life along the way, so I'm almost done with it, and I know exactly what's going to happen. And it is the story of, once again, it's mothers, daughters, women. It's a story about a girl who lost her mom when she was young, and right now it's titled In My Mother's Footsteps, and it's about her journey to try and figure out who her mom was.
I'm gonna love that. Just what little I know, I'm gonna love it.
I'll send it to you as a proofreader.
I'm in.
Okay.
So the late actor John Ritter, he started you on journaling back in the Walton years, and you found that very beneficial. How did that help you, and do you still keep a journal?
I found that what John Ritter did was help me save my life in a way. So I had all of these emotions, and I was always taught not to express them and to just behave and fit in and try and be perfect and don't complain. And I had a lot of emotions, and I didn't have a voice, and I didn't know how to express myself. And my family were not very emotional people. And my mother had been raised with someone who was a fighter, a real yelly person. And so we were not really allowed to yell in our house. So we didn't learn how to constructively fight or get our points across very well. So I had all of this emotion built up inside, and John Ritter saw that, and he saw that I was sad, and he told me about his own journaling process. And so that night I bought a spiral notebook, my very first one, and I started journaling, and I put all of my emotions and fears and terrors and joys and hates and loves in those journals. And I pulled them back out again when I wrote Lessons from the Mountain, and really looked at, opened up those old Tupperware containers to see what was really going on back then. And there were some painful moments in revisiting, but I do journal now, but in a different way. My stories tend to come out of me in more like op-eds or essay, but I do write emotions out sometimes, but then I kind of write the story about it. So I have that's another book I'm doing, Laura. I have a series of short stories that I've written over the years, and I might do a compilation book.
So there's going to be lots more Mary down the road.
I hope so. If I can get them all together.
So can you walk me through your writing process? I'm wondering how you keep track of characters' birthdays and timelines. Do you have a storyboard?
Do you want me to show you?
Oh,
Here, let's do that. There it is. That's part of my new book. you asked about the writing process. So I usually know what my stories are when I start them. I'm not one of those people who have started something and not know how it ends. But I think that's exciting sometimes. Sure, it gets deeper with every pass. And this story, in my mother's footsteps, is based on something that I went through. So most of my stories are based on me and life and things that I've done. So when I had lupus and I was a young mom, I was always afraid that that my daughter wouldn't know me if anything happened to me. When I had a lupus flare up and I got really sick, so I went about, writing in a journal, and I, so that's sort of how this story started. And then as the years went on, I kind of added to it, and then I started to develop it more when I was living in Colorado. And then I thought, oh, I'm just going to write this and I'll just get it done before I let anybody see it. So I've been working on it, and I kind of start with a loose outline, and then I go in and try and put it all starting from the beginning to the end. But sometimes I jump around, and I try and write every day, but I would not be telling the truth if I said, yes, I wake up at 5 a.m. like David Sedaris, and I write for 3 hours before coffee. That never happened. I have to write whenever I can. And sometimes I'm just not inspired. So I'll write in huge chunks, and then I will take a day or two where I don't write at all sometimes weeks. But the process is, loosely putting it out, then trying to put it into chapters and what happens in those chapters. Then I usually do a deeper dive on characters and character analysis. I think being an actor, that's pretty easy for me, because I can just put my head in that, like, why does this person do this? And it's similar to what I would do as an actor too. Like, why are they so angry? Or what happened that made them like this? And then I put it all up all over the room. And sometimes I have a timeline that's all across the windows or the doors or the walls. And then as I'm writing and I'll remember something, I'll say, oh, that's a really good idea. So I take a Post-it note and I put it on the thing, like to remind me, like, add this in. But I do have a timeline up here of both of my characters, the mom and the daughter, and when they were born, and when the mom died. And so I kind of have a parallel universe for them, side by side. And I just write all of these notes, and then I try and push all the way through to get that horrible first draft. And then I kind of redefine along the way. And that's how, and that is sort of my process. But I am a very visual person, so having things all over the walls is great for me.
It sounds super organized, and because you're an actress, I think it helps you get into their heads too.
Yeah, and writing dialogue, I have to think about what they would say and how each of them would say it. So I think being able to switch off into character mode, that's easy too. And sometimes I will just put 25 Post-it notes on a window or on part of a wall, and I'll just look at it, and then I pull them off and put them in an order. So, but unless it's like a paint splattering, I have to see it all out there, and then I can pull them off and put them in order.
No, that makes sense. So I guess you did a lot of writing then during the pandemic. Did you have more time to do that?
I did. I also started college right before the pandemic started. So that took up a lot of my time. But yeah, I did. I wrote a lot during the pandemic. And I did a complete second draft of this novel. And now I'll go back and do a third.
Wow. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I just can't wait. What are you taking in college?
I'm just doing general things right now. I went to college for a long time and I never took credits for them. So, and then I just have always regretted not graduating. So I just decided that I was going to go back to college. So I'm going to a community college right now, and I'm just doing my GE, and I'm taking a geology class right now.
So I'm curious to know, what is more mentally exhausting, writing or acting?
Writing is more mentally exhausting and acting is more physically exhausting. That's what yeah. They're both, they both have elements of both, you know, because but I think writing is more mental.
Mhm. So your latest film role, The Contested Planes, that's in production, and I can't wait for its release. What can you tell us about your character, Lydia German?
Not very much because we've been sworn to secrecy, but it is based on a true story of a family that went across the plains. And I play the mother of a lot of kids. So I'm like Mama Walton. And it's about this family and why they went across and why it was important and how they stuck together and how difficult it was. It's more of a historic piece than it is. It's a docudrama. So.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be
but
good.
Lydia is strong. Yeah, it's amazing to film. It's been really fun and really rewarding to film. And we're working with historians who feel a great sense of honor and duty to tell this story. And what's really nice is that they're all professors and educators. And so they're very, very much about getting the story right and balanced and presenting both sides of the issues. And that's what's really great about it. It's an honor to be part of it.
Well, I know the pictures you've been sharing on your Facebook page of the sunsets and all of you in your wardrobe and everything. It looks really good.
We were in the middle of nowhere. And the great thing is that we were in the places where they really were. So they're following the actual trail. Mm-hmm. And we were in a couple of the actual places on the trail of where the family was. So to make it historically accurate, and it's, you know, it's being filmed in time frames that they were there. So it's over the course of a year. And even though their journey was way longer than that, but they're going at different seasons and to show what they went through. So yeah, it being in Kansas in the middle of nowhere, it was pretty amazing. The sunsets were great. I mean, you would, look to the left and here's the sun rising. And by the end of the day, you're looking to the right and there's the sun going down and you get to see both.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen in a big city.
No way. No way. So your co-stars are Buck Taylor and Darby Hinton. So what was it like with Newly O'Brien from Gunsmoke and Darby Hinton?
Oh my gosh, Buck is such a national treasure. I mean, he is amazing. He is so whip smart and funny and generous and kind and such a great artist. Oh, he was wonderful. He was wonderful. And then, Darby is a fellow child performer and we've known each other for years. And it was actually Darby who suggested me to play Lydia. So that was really, really an honor. And we had a lot of fun and it was really great.
So is there a role out there somewhere that you would absolutely love to play if it came your way?
Oh boy. That one stumps me. There isn't. I act now kind of when people ask me to, because I live in Texas and I'm, doing my thing and I'm being a housewife and a mother and a mom and a wife so I don't pursue it as much. So whenever people bring anything to me, I'm glad and I love to consider it. So, and there's a part of me that thinks I would like to play a grandmother on something. That I think would be, not that I would be Grandma Walton. I don't know that I would be gruff like that, but I'd love to work and whatever comes up, I'm always interested.
Well, hopefully the grandma role is way down the road.
Yes. Not far down the road. I could be a grandma. My friends are grandparents.
So in 2001, you wrote and directed a short film, For the Love of May, which had both of your past TV mothers in it, Patricia Neal from The Homecoming and Michael Learned from The Waltons. So after all those years, what was it like to work with and direct them?
It was scary, wonderful, and fun. You know, Patricia Neal is an Academy Award-winning actress. So it was funny because there was something that she said that I wanted to change, but then I can't tell her how to say that. I can't tell her what to do. And afterwards, when she saw it, she went, oh, why didn't you tell me to say that differently? I said, because you're Patricia Neal. She was like, darling girl, you needed to tell me. So lessons learned. She was wonderful and gracious. And then, of course, Michael, multi-Emmy award winning, but Michael's like my sister. So, and she was very gracious. She let us film in her house. And they were just great. They were so eager to be a part of it and to help me. And it was just a very loving experience.
Aw. So during the Walton years, you very likely spent more time with your TV siblings than with your own family. Do you have a favorite episode?
Well, our favorite episode to film has to be the burnout, because the house burned down, and we always talk. I mean, I talk about that in the book, a lot of behind the scenes information in Lessons from the Mountain. It was just fun to work at night. We didn't get to work at night very often, and there were pyrotechnics, and the house was burning down, and we were wearing pajamas, and we got, it was a special thing to have us work late at night. So that was really fun because it was something different. So that was a favorite to film. But I think, favorite personal episodes would definitely be, the one about where the book burning happened. Those are just poignant. And where the first casualty, where GW dies, that I think was one of my personal favorites to film, just because the message was so important and there was so much drama in it, and I got to be more mature. And so, and I guess, there's a lot of episodes that really touch people's lives. So, I guess those are a couple of my favorites. But when people come to me and say, oh, oh yeah, that's a good one too.
So if there ever was going to be a 7th reunion movie, and I'd love to see one, would you like to write and direct it?
I've already brought it to a couple of networks over the years. And honestly, no one wanted to make it. So I talked to Earl about it, and we had a story going. We went to, a couple of networks that air the show now. And I did produce a reunion where all of us were sitting around a table talking about different episodes and showed different clips. So I produced that. But the scripted version, it just never got done. And I don't know or think that it ever will. We talk about it like, when do you think that Elizabeth married Drew? And we figure out what we think would have happened. But, now there's a reboot of The Homecoming. So I don't know that it will ever happen. But I would love to be part of it on a production level, of course.
Of course. So you credit Ralph Wade, who played your father, John Walton, with being one of your favorite acting mentors. What was particularly special about him?
Well, I had a lot of really good acting mentors. Ralph was just different because he was very method in his, he was very method. And I think he taught me how to look at the characters, because I was only dealing with, like, I'm this girl and I'm in this place. And he really made me think. He would always complain that we didn't eat enough at the table. But we would film, there's a great story in Lessons about the dinner table scene, which is one of my favorite ones to read. But Ralph would get really like, we're hungry, we've been working outside, you've got to just shovel food into your mouth. I was always on a diet, and they were always harassing me about my weight. So I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to eat. And then he directed an episode, and he said he wouldn't print it until I ate a bite of everything on the plate. And he did it to Michael too, because Michael didn't really eat that much. But, when you're filming something for 6-7 hours and you're eating the same food for that long, you just don't want to keep eating that. But Ralph was great because he would, and then it just made me think, like, oh, well, I guess we would be hungry, and, we don't have that much food. And it made me think about learning about characters and what their point of view was.
So I read that Michael learned Speaking of dinner tables, she invited all the Walton siblings to her home for dinner. So I'm curious, what was the camaraderie like with all of you at her table as opposed to the Waltons' table?
Not that different. I think there were less food fights at Michael's table.
Let's hope so.
We have all had many meals together. The one I think you're talking about was right before Ralph passed. It was the last time all of us were together. And we had had another meal a couple of months before that, but everybody wasn't there. So then the idea was, well, let's do this again. And so Michael hosted, and it was great. As Ralph came in, and we all had spouses there, partners, and he asked everybody, he goes, I haven't really sat and talked to you all for so what do you do? What do you do now? How are you? How many kids do you have? And he went around and everybody kind of shared with him what they were doing, because we don't have a lot of time. When we do events together, we're really there for the fans. We don't have a lot of time together. So what has happened as a result is we always make sure we have one meal that's just for us.
So one of your Walton's co-stars said, even when you work really, really hard, there's always time for laughter. What's your take on that? Is that your philosophy too?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know if I have it in the book, but I always used to say when I was younger, if you can't laugh at yourself, everyone else will. So I had to learn how to laugh at myself, and I don't do it that well still. But yeah, I think when you're working really hard, and if you're working really long hours, you tend to get a little punchy and just sort of silly. But even working so hard, I think it creates this camaraderie and energy where eventually there has to be fun as a release, even if you're, screaming and crying and doing a lot of drama scenes. There still has to be some kind of, there is joy that comes out of it.
So let's chat briefly about Earl Hamner Jr. What went through your mind when he agreed to write the foreword to your memoir? That had to mean a great deal to you.
Yeah, it was very touching. But what he said to me first was, he said, I'll have to read the book. If I don't like it, I'm not writing it. So, which I totally appreciated his honesty, right? So then it was pressure, like, oh no, is he even going to like this? And I'm not a writer like him. But it was a relief that he liked it. And he gave me some really great notes on it, and notes that I still actually use when I write characters, because I tend to sometimes I write my characters a little wimpy. And so he was talked about, like, just really talk about, coming out the other side instead of everything that happened. And so I was honored when he decided to write the foreword, and just so thrilled that he liked the book enough to do it. And it just made it complete. It all kind of starts and ends with Earl Hamner, doesn't it? It came full circle.
Oh, it really does, because members of his family were the inspiration for the Waltons characters. So tell me about Audrey, his sister, who inspired Erin Walton.
Audrey was great. She was way more lively and smart and more she was more spunky, I should say, than Erin. Audrey had wonderful energy. She was so we told it like it was. She was bold, and I think Erin was a little more subdued. And I think sometimes, and we agreed on the one thing that I had to do as Erin that I just didn't think she would ever do. And when I met Audrey, one of the first things she said was like, let me tell you the one thing that I really didn't like. I said, I didn't like that either. So we found out that we absolutely agreed on a couple of character points of things they had Erin do that she said she would never do. And I told her, I said, I told them I didn't want to do it, but they, so it was very fun to have her acknowledgement. And then she was always so gracious about sharing that with me. I would always call her the real Erin. And she came to some book signings, and we both signed my book together for people. And I would say, well, have the real Erin sign it too.
And sadly, we lost her this past September.
We did. But a good life, a good, long, and beautiful life.
And you shared such a wonderful picture on Facebook of you and she and all the Walton stars around her. And you guys really are family in real life. You are.
Oh, we are. We are. Cammie Cotler just came this past week and spent the night here with her husband. They were traveling. And I said, well, if you're going through Texas, let us know. And so she showed up and I made chicken in a pot and we sat and then they went off the next day on their way. So we are really a family. And it was very funny. My character, Lydia German, obviously had really long hair. So they put hair extensions and things in. And I sent this picture to them, to everybody and my husband. And he said, oh, you look like Cammie in that picture. You look like you could be Cammie's sister. And tell Dawn, you are my sister.
Absolutely.
Like, it's true. It's true. But she has very long hair. So I had very long hair for those couple of days and it was fun.
Aw. So you guys are Texans now. With all that you do in your busy life, do you even have time to visit your local library? And do you have your own library card?
I still have my California, Los Angeles library card, but I have not been here. I do not have one here. I had one in Colorado when I lived there, and I had one in Orange County, and I had a Los Angeles Public Library card. I do not have one for Texas.
You know, they're waiting for you to come in now.
I know. Well, you know, but I did do a book signing and a speech at the local library here, just outside of Dallas.
Yes,
So I have visited. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. That was a very fun night. So I have been.
So what are you reading now, if you have time to read? And is there a book that you recommend to family and friends?
Oh. So I just finished Leslie Winson, who played my sister, who played Ben's wife on the show, Cindy. She just recommended a book that's for kind of California people called Malibu Rising. And I just finished that. But and then I just started Flight Risk today. And I listen on Audible a lot because I'm reading and writing so much anyway all the time. So sometimes when I'm walking or taking the dog on a walk, so I'll do a lot of Audible books. But there is a book that I have absolutely loved. So this book that I really, really loved is called The Love Story of Missy Carmichael by Beth Maury. And I hope I'm saying her last name right. It is a lovely listen. And it has a character that is a woman of age. And it's nice to read a book that has someone that's close to your age in it. And I just loved it. And I think because of COVID and coming out of it, I haven't been wanting to read things that were very, very heavy because I was way heavy into World War II books for a while. But then I thought, okay, I've got to lighten up a little bit. And there's so The Love Story of Missy Carmichael, I really, really enjoyed. So I need everybody to write to me and through my website and tell me if you liked it or not. And the other one is Lost for Words by Stephanie Butland. And that is a lovely little book as well. It's a little book. It's not that long. But I really enjoyed it too. And the characters in it some of them are really, really special. And I always feel like when I can't wait to get back to the book, that's a good sign. And then after I finish, I always know I really enjoyed a book when the characters stay with me. And I keep wanting to go back and talk to them.
Yeah, when you finish your book and you miss them.
Yes, I miss them. Like I miss Missy Carmichael.
Well, I understand. I'm going to track those down. I am. So is there a fictional character that you would like to meet in real life?
That's a hard one. I think like, oh, it has to be someone from a Jane Austen novel or one of the great characters. But no, I don't. There's not any one character that I say, oh, I would really like to know that person. That I can, that off the top of my head. No.
It is a hard one. I had to think for myself, and it was hard.
What's yours? What is yours?
Oh,
Maybe it'll be
well,
mine too.
Okay, so Ebenezer Scrooge after his reclamation. I want to talk to the happy guy, not the Grinch.
Interesting.
Any of the
Okay.
hobbits. Any of the hobbits, because they're all going to have something really cool to say. And
True.
Linus Van Pelt from the Peanuts. The solemn little line. Yeah.
Oh.
Because after
Yes, I know. If
I started thinking about, well, what would mine be? So I was ready.
Yeah. So, and I don't, I think about that. I take a look and like scroll at my books, and I have all of Jane Austen's books up there, but I'm trying to think. I guess I feel like when I'm with them, I know them and I'm hanging out with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think like, to ask more. I'll have to think about that when I get back to you.
So you're changing veins a bit. You're also a life coaching speaker. Can you tell me about some of the more rewarding speaking engagements?
So I'm a certified life coach, and I work with people on their lives, on creating life balance and going through difficult hurdles and identifying what blocks are in people's way. When I speak, I talk about my own experiences on getting through those things. So sometimes I coach people to speak and to act in different elements of that, but mostly my life coaching is helping people in their own lives. And my most rewarding experience was when I do a lot of workshops on body image, because there's a lot of stories and lessons from the mountain about my own challenges with body image and growing up and never feeling like I fit in, literally or physically or emotionally or mentally. So my most rewarding programs that I've done is coaching adults, sometimes mother-daughters, but a lot of teenagers about are the emotional tattoos that we wear and the messages that we put out to people about ourselves and how we judge other people. And the most rewarding thing is helping groups of people see that we are all not necessarily what we put out, and that underneath it all, we're all really connected and very similar.
Wow. That's very
and
deep.
That's rewarding. It is. And it's why I coach. I know it's why I wrote the book. I mean, I think I say at the beginning of lessons, it's for anyone who ever felt like they weren't enough. Because I spent a lot of my life, and I still do, it doesn't just go away, thinking that I'm just not enough. And I think for me, the journey was to find out like, what is enough? And when have you given someone else enough? And when are you enough for yourself? And when do you say enough?
Exactly.
And and what do you have to offer? Right. So I thought my only value was being Erin Walton. And once the show ended, I realized that wasn't true. When I had to find out how I could participate and give back to the world in different ways that felt right to me. And coaching is one of them. And I work with people on the phone from all over the place. And I do seminars and Zoom sessions sometimes, but then I also go and now I'm going to start to teach and hopefully do more again now that we're getting to the other side of COVID, because I've missed it. But I think the greatest gift was I thought I was all alone. And then what I realized is that so many people have written me after reading the book saying that they felt exactly the same way. And I think that's what I try and get across in my workshops, is that we all are part of the whole brotherhood of mankind, and we all are more similar than we think.
That's very nicely put, really.
Thank
you.
So
you wrote about being touched by the beautiful James Taylor song, The Secret of Life. The secret of life is enjoying the passage of time. It's okay to be afraid, but don't let that stand in your way. Are you enjoying the passage of time in your own life?
Such a great question. I just turned 60. And I think as you get like older, you think, am I enjoying the passage of time? And that song, I just heard it the other day and it brought tears to my eyes. And I'm enjoying the passage of time so much more now than when I was younger. And every day I stand in gratitude. And even if it's just I talk to my clients about this a lot, just start with, like, you wake up and what's the first thing you're grateful for? And for me, it's usually my pillow. And then my husband. Not necessarily in that order, but the first thing I'll notice, like, I'm so happy I have a pillow and I have a blanket, and then I kind of start from there. And so I do, and I think I am redefining what I really want to do. And how I think when you get older, you say, well, I'll say no to that, no more of that. And I don't let people in my life that are like this, and I don't want to eat that. And I say yes to cake and whatever, you know? And I think it's really redefining. When you don't have as much time on the planet as you've spent on the planet, it's really makes you think.
There's
so that's a long-winded answer.
Keep the fork, because you never know when someone's going to bring cake.
I like that.
So make sure you've always got a fork in your purse.
Exactly.
So besides James Taylor, who's on your playlist these days?
Wow, James Taylor is still on my playlist. And I've actually thought about writing him a fan letter. That's something I want to do, is to thank the people who touched me. Joni Mitchell is always on my playlist. Landslide is still a huge song for me, even as no matter how old I get. So I should write Stevie Nicks the fan letter too and say thank you for those words. Because I first listened to it when Erin Moran from Happy Days and I were friends when we were in our teens. I think I was 14 and she was 15, and we listened to that song over and over and over again. And it still makes so much sense, no matter how many transitions I've gone through in my life. Now we have a little bit, Ed Sheeran is on the playlist and Adele is on the playlist. I've added to it a little bit, but Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, James Taylor, Joni Mitchell.
Yeah. Me too. So that's our time, I'm afraid. So Mary McDonough, it's been wonderful to chat with you. I can't thank you enough. Life doesn't slow down. You made time for us, and our library and our community are truly enriched because of it. We wish you all the happiness, health, joy, and success life could possibly throw your way.
Thank you.
There never was a Laura Walton, but if there had been, she might have said something like this. Good night, Mary.
Good night, Laura girl. You just don't get Laura. It has to be Laura girl.
I accept it. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for doing all the noble work that you do. And I mean, you even have to put this out there, but so have you read the library book?
It's on my list of books to read. We own it in the collection, that nice red book.
Yes, you have to read that book, or just get it on Audible and listen to it. It just talks about the importance. And, I used to always say, people would say, what did you want to be when you were growing up? And I always said, I wanted to be a nurse because I wanted to help people. And now I realize that I should have been a librarian, especially with all of my, social programs and workshops. And I have great friends who are librarians, and they just make such huge differences in their communities and in the lives of people. And people think it's just about books, and it's so not. The library, especially now, is such a multi-purpose place to be, with online help and Audible books and real, actual physical books. And there's so much in a library, and the social programs and the education and the wisdom. So thank you for doing all the good, honorable work.
Oh,